Awesome. Where are we right now?
So right now we in Charlotte, North Carolina, at one of my best friend's house. We invited 3 married couples, 1 other single lady, and then me. So dinner is gonna be starting pretty soon, and we'll be getting some conversation going.
What are you expecting for this evening and this experience?
Deliciousness.
Ladies first.
Well, I'm Patty. I'm the wife of Kenneth.
Yeah, and I'm Kenneth Funderburk, and this is my beautiful queen, Betty. You see, my expectation of this evening is more to understand the thought process of couples, to better develop our relationship, and to probably give some input or some advice to those who maybe have questions, on how to move through life in a relationship or outside of a relationship.
Awesome. Perfect. That was.
So I'm Mariana, Miss Green.
I'm Dalvin Green. All right. He said introduce.
What are you all expecting for this evening?
What are we expecting from this evening? I think it'll be a nice surprise.
I'm expecting grown-ups getting together, talking about plus and minus, it is good and bad, having fun, and also listening and learning from each other. I mean, because just the dynamic of our friends here, we have some couples that's been married for over 15, almost 20 years, and then
Single friends.
there's single friends here, and then newly married couples like ourselves, getting ready to go on 3 years. That's the diversity of our group.
We are the Loves. My name is Antoine. This is my beautiful wife, Adrian. We've been married for going on 18 years right now.
18.
Yeah, 18. It's been that long. Yeah.
You must be doing something right. Hold on for dear life.
Is that a question?
What are you expecting for this evening and this experience?
Deliciousness. As I said, food is big to me. I enjoy food. I enjoy the fellowship around food. Going back to the roots of African Americans, food was something that brought people together. And it's not just with African Americans, it's against or across all cultures. Food is something that brings people together, starts the conversation, keeps the enjoyment, and my palate just gets a little bit happy when I get tasty food.
For me, just like kind of what she said, it's just the conversation. It's good people we have. Everything's centered around a table. It was always what we do and we've done. And typically, if it wasn't spades or some type of family gathering, it was about a good movie was the Soul Food. Soul Food was just what we're doing here. It's about our souls, and it's about us connecting and stuff like that. And that's one thing we don't get a chance to do a lot of, is just connecting. And this is a great opportunity for us to do that. So my expectations is just have a good time and an adult time. And we don't get a chance to do a lot of that either. So, I think it's a good time for us to just sit back, relax, eat some good food. It smells delicious. You have no idea. You can't smell it right now, but it is like my stomach is like ready to just devour whatever he's preparing. So we're ready.
So I'm Cortez. What's your name?
Anna.
All right. So what made you decide to come today to this dinner party?
I wanted to meet you.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm excited about that. This is a Saturday. You're getting with friends. We're gonna have a dinner party to talk about relationships. Hopefully, enjoy some good food and company. What do you normally do with your time?
Whatever I feel like it.
Okay. All right. Well,
What are you expecting to happen today?
No.
Drinks.
No attachment to alcohol.
No, really?
Yeah, it's just
okay. So you're open to it.
Yeah, open to see
I like this
who
thing.
comes in.
Okay. All right. I don't think I'm doing this as good as Rashad, but yes.
You about to have fun tonight, dog.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, I'm expecting to hopefully get to know everybody better, and with that, hopefully everybody can walk away with some value. You know, maybe hopefully some different and better perspectives than they had before. That's my expectation.
Okay.
Yeah, and glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
So now I got questions for both of you all.
Okay.
So you all are the two single people here.
Yes.
What do you feel like you're going to add to the conversation? What perspective do you feel like you have to add as a single person?
Probably. I've always been single. I've never been married. Probably just getting to this point, to this age, on my own. Getting to know myself. Getting to grow and doing it on my own without someone else there. So it's been solely me.
Okay.
So and not having to share that with someone else.
Really?
So, yeah.
For me, I would say maybe asking questions about what they've learned so far, the struggles that they've come past, and how they have continued to stay where they are and getting past that. So I found that in the people that I've talked to in the past that are single, they still want to be, they want somebody. Everybody really, eventually will want to be not just with somebody, but the right person, which is most important. And trying to understand, getting different perspectives, because a lot of times when I talk to people, they are, when it comes to singles, some people are getting information from their own counterparts. Women are from other women, not from men, and then the guys from guys. And so it's good to get those cross perspectives. And so I learn something new every time.
I think it's interesting that you said people change. So you're not the same person that you started out. And I think that could be a problem because sometimes people are the same person while the other person has continued to advance. So if you're not on that journey together, continue to evolve in yourself as well as in your relationship, then I think you can get a disconnect, because when you started out, you had an attraction because of certain things you said or certain things you did, certain commonalities. But as time goes on, if one person is continuing to evolve, getting new interests, different mindset, if this other person has not done that, then you might not be at that same wavelength. So it's about the matriculation in life and each of you evolving to become your full self, your full person, and to appreciate that change and that evolvement, I guess.
Like, you guys having so much experience, not that anything's perfect, just because somebody's been together for 18, 19 years, almost 20 years, to me, what that says is, in my opinion, it says that you've encountered all of the other bumps and bruises that anybody else has, and you've just, to me, maybe possibly made a decision to keep riding it out together.
Most couples fall short of communication. If you can't communicate, you're not going to get there. But for us, what made us come, bumps and bruises, I'll probably say it's probably very easy. I tell you, we had storms, hurricanes, tsunamis. It has been, we've gone through a lot. And the blessings of the Lord and us coming back to putting the forefront of Jesus, it's allowed us to come back to each other. And she's right, in terms of, we grew. I mean, there's times where she's leaps and bounds exponentially has gone above and beyond where I was at, because either work, life, whatever, I'm set in a certain way. And I'll say it. I mean, and it's still today. It's kind of funny today. We talked about, I will never forget this. It's still true today. Living in Cleveland. She said, look, you have two options. Okay?
Ooh, the A and B.
Yeah. Either we move, or here's your divorce papers.
Oh, wow. That's rough.
And I was like, I guess we're moving then. Bumps and bruises. It's going to be those times, but the fact that we can communicate is everything. And we still talk about it. We still talk about what we talked about when we were in our 20s, when we were talking about in our teens. We had our visions. Now we're in our 40s. Sometimes she said, we should be here, or I mean, we should be here already.
Right.
But we're just not there yet because we're trying to put some things in motion.
Right.
And some of that's just because life comes into perspective. Kids, pandemics, just whatever it may be that may come into folks. But the fact is that we're moving in the right direction. We're not going backwards. And I think that's what's helped us stay together. I think there's just a lot behind that too, because at the end of the day, and I don't tell her all the time, but I need to do that more than anything else. But
communicate that more to her.
Yeah, I need to do more because it's at the end of the day, I gotta say thank you, and I gotta say I love you, and I gotta say those things, that affirmation, because it may be things that either I'm going through or she may be going through that we don't connect because of our life journeys, and we've been missing each other. And that's probably the strongest thing about that is that we're working together to get to a certain spot, but individually we're working against each other or passing each other and not realizing it. And sometimes that's where the miscommunication comes in, or the rift comes into, because we're passing each other and not really on the same path with each other.
Let me ask you a question. So you said something about communication. Now there's several different things to that to me, because when it comes to communication, and you mentioned God too, which is good. But there are just as many people that, whatever guy you're talking about, if it's in the church, they get divorced too. A lot. Just like,
So I was going to go ahead.
But I was just gonna say is what's different about your communication? Like, one of the things I could say that saved me so many different times, just in general, whether it's communication with work, whatever. My brother had always talking about tone and delivery. That's one aspect of it. But also not shutting down, or at the very least, like, I know when it comes to couples, sometimes if there's a disagreement, generally, I know men are good for this. Men are saying, well, we'll talk about this later, and never talking about it again. And that's one thing. But basically, being able to come together and have that conversation. But how do you say conversation, communication? What do you mean specifically? Like, how do you communicate to keep it going? What do you specifically do so that you guys are on the same page or clear, so you can keep it going? You know what I mean? Like for instance, like you like, all right, well, we not on the same page. Let's come back tomorrow, and we actually come back, or you know what I mean? Because don't get me wrong, it's just I'm just curious. I like to know, like how you want to pass the buck on to somebody else.
Well, I would like to interject, and as you're thinking about it, I just want to say what I heard you say, Antoine, is that there's a commonality. You mentioned religion. For us, we're spiritual. I guess probably Patty's more religious than I am. But for me, it's more, when you say what keeps us together, we're only 4 years, about to be 4 years in. What kept us together, as you talked about communication, is that we actually sat down and had a conversation and said, this is it. We're going to commit to each other. There is no straddling the fence. We're in this together, regardless of what happens. Because if it doesn't happen, then, when she goes her way, I go my way. We're never going to do this again. So for us, it was just a decision to say, we're going to make this happen. So if there's because initially before we had that conversation it was, well, I'm not going to deal with this, I'm not going to deal with that, and if you're not going to do this, then I'm out. And so after we had that conversation, it's never since then been, if this happens, I'm out. It's always been, okay, so now the conversation is, how do we get past this hurdle to move forward, so that even if this conversation happens again, there's a process and procedure that we go through so that we can go through it. You know what I'm saying? So, if there's an issue that I've had with Patty and it happens to arise again, now we have a plan, checklist, or whatever have you, to move forward. And I think for us, that commonality is how we've been able to progress from 3 to 4.
But that has been a challenge.
And that also is, it's always been a challenge because innately we're different. There's going to always be differences because I move in a masculine energy and she moves in a feminine energy. And so 9 times out of 10, we're going to be on different frequencies.
So let me ask you a question. So you, I'm going to say you knew your wife to an extent before you got married to her, but would you say that there's more that you had to discover about her after you got married?
Absolutely. I think when you're in a relationship, the full truth doesn't always unfold itself until you actually experience it. You can.
No. You can't say.
I'm sorry. I'm just like you don't know everything. It's a surprise.
I just wanted to. It's not terrible. It's the fact that most people put their representative.
Exactly.
Who they think that they really want to see.
Especially in the first year.
In the first year, and whenever people put their representative. But then when it all boils down is that because you start spending more time, it becomes tiresome to say, hey, this is who I am. This is who I think you want to be with.
Or want to see.
And then eventually the realness come in. I'm saying in the beginning. Because most time when people introduce each other, they want to show their best foot forward. Right. They don't want to show the weight, the products, and everything else behind them. And that's when I said that. And as years go on, there comes a time when you have to say, hey, you made a great point. Most men say, let's talk about it later, but eventually, if it's not the woman saying, let's talk about it, we're like, okay, let's keep moving forward. Let's keep doing what we have to do to make the household whole and do whatever else. It's not the fact that we don't want to talk about it. It's just that in our mind, we're moving forward and we're trying to maintain the home and keep things flow.
Right.
And we don't necessarily get a chance to go back to having the deep depth conversation about that because the truth is we're built different. I listened to a podcast recently, Questlove Supreme, where Anthony Mackie said, I saw my dad working every day, and until he got older, he never understood why his dad sat out in the driveway for 30 minutes before he came into the home. It's to get his peace, to calm down before he came into the home to deal with the stuff that he had to deal with because he was dealing with all of the rigmarole and everything else while he was out there in his daily job. And then when he came home, he was like, I never understood why my dad, he had to deal with 6 kids, my mom who stayed at home to take care of the kids, and he had to deal with everything else with whatever else that he had to do. And that hit me because there are days when I come home or before I come home, I have to go through my mental check to wind myself when I was going to work. My mental check before I step into the door, so I didn't bring home the BS and the stuff that I had to deal with every day to my home life. And it's true.
That's a common thing. I had a friend of mine in San Diego. And he said him and his wife was newly married. They moved from DC to San Diego, and he had explained to his newly married wife that he said, babe, when I come home, I love you, but you coming at me, and I need like about 15, 30 minutes to kind of decompress. And then I'll listen to you. I want to hear all about your day, but I need to kind of. So, like you said, they send the driveway to do that. they couldn't get it at home. But that's interesting. I mean, it's a common thing. You know, a lot of us men, we take on so much weight of the world and all this stuff. So.
But again, I'm athletic stand up for women too, is that they have to deal with it as well. And especially COVID this past year. Yeah. It's been difficult because we all been working from home. So you can't walk from upstairs like I do to come downstairs. Mary is dealing with her stuff from downstairs, and I come home. I mean, I walk from upstairs downstairs. And what's wild, and I'm saying this is because the role has reversed a little in my home. Like my wife used to say, when I was at work, when you coming home? She'll call. Are you coming home? What time you be home? And I'm still working at 6. And now the role is reversed.
It's reversed.
But I'm saying it's reversed because I'll finish and she's still working. She's still clocking. And I think she gets it now. With dealing.
No, it's not that I didn't get it.
No, what I'm saying by getting now is like why you're working and why you're trying to get your stuff done is that you just want to be done with it so that, you know, you be home, you're home, but because we're working from home, that's another dynamic that a lot of people don't realize with relationships now, is that both of the parents are working from home.
Oh, I hear it all the time. My coworkers, I hear the kids in the background, and you know, it's just part of the work now. So.
But what should never change is what Antoine said, what Kenneth said, is the communication. Antoine's being transparent and was able to say what I should do more of. Kenneth said what I heard was. And those are keys to that communication, that if I don't get where your mentality is or how you're feeling at the moment, I can't guess, but you have to let me know. And then we can work from that.
Would you say that it seems like to me that most times when a couple is having issues, and if there is a communication thing, it seems like the core of it is that whoever it is that's voicing something, they need to feel like they've been heard, they've been understood. Mm-hmm. Would you say that's the case? And like you said, Kenneth and Antoine said that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of vice versa with Patty and I said and myself. I'm the one who needs to get the clarity. You know, she's the one that says, okay, I want peace in the house, so I will avoid the conflict, so I won't reapproach the conversation. Right. So for me, it's we have to have the conversation, probably like the women in the room, but they have to have the conversation. For me, I have to have the conversation so that we don't repeat a conversation or repeat an issue. I want to reapproach that issue so that we're not having that conversation again. Yeah. So for me, it's still the production of moving forward, no progress or perfection, but still progressing to something so that the idea is perfection, but the progress of moving forward so that we don't continuously have the same argument.
Anniversary?
Every 3 years on the 27th.
Oh, I thought you said 27 years.
No.
I just
27.
Like you're only 27. That's a new kind of.
I was like, it's our anniversary. Ben was like, I was like, yeah.
Opposites attract, man.
So the 27th will be 3 years.
27th. Oh, well, congratulations.
Congratulations. This month, yeah.
So I mean, so you both, Patty and Kenneth, have been married 3 years. You've been married for 3 years now.
So you're a big boy. You guys got big boys.
So like, what have you learned from each other? Like, what have you learned from each other being married 3 years that will benefit each other?
I think more so I've learned to find myself. I can't say that I've learned more from Dallin, but because I'm with Dallin, I'm learning more about me and how I can change things or how I can support myself. Mm-hmm. That doesn't always involve him. Like I can be his wife without being up under him or needing some kind of validation, or because I used to be that clingy, oh, are you going to leave me? Oh, something's wrong with us, so we need to work this out now. And I've come to the point where I'm like, you know what? I can see where you are, and if you're good with where you are, then I need to make sure I'm good with where I am.
So are you saying that like working on you
individually makes your marriage better.
Yeah,
Huh.
because even though we're married and we're
See?
a couple, I'm still finding my strengths and my weaknesses, and I'm still learning how to change and adapt every day. We don't get married and okay, this is it. We've arrived. We're never gonna arrive.
Before there was a we, there was a me.
Yeah.
And I use that term. Before there was a we, there was a me. And a lot of time people forget the me. They forget about their individual, the person who makes them happy, their inner.
Yeah.
And that's something that, I've read and I've heard him, ministers speak about, TDJs talk about a lot of times where there are people that always say, oh, it's we in a couple, we this, and he was like, no. Before there was a we, there was a me.
Yeah.
There was something that you liked about that individual that you really was drawn to him before you got married. Or a lot of people who get married and they forget the person who they are.
That's true.
And they are with this person for years, and then after the kids get out of the house, they're looking and say, hey,
Where am I?
where am I? Because they're so focused just on the family, but it's true. You have to focus on the family, but you have to also focus on the individual. How do I feel?
Yeah.
And I think, and I give kudos to a lot of women, because a lot of women, they deal with that a lot, because they are the ones that's really focusing on, the kids and doing this. And dads be like, yo, run and burn and do whatever else, the kids are figuring it out, even because that's just the mentality of man. But a lot of times we get so focused on everything else outside of the individual. And I'm not saying that's not important. I'm just saying that I'm not trying to minimize the we, but you gotta have a center of, hey, I'm well, I'm good, I'm well enough, I'm good enough to make you a partner to grow even more. And I'm happy to hear my wife say that, because
leave you alone.
Not that, but
Can I piggyback on that?
Yeah.
As a man,
I'm coming to you
you
next.
and I've had conversations about this. As a man,
Yeah.
you're most, when I talk about energies, you're more, when a man is on his,
I just heard the inhale.
Go ahead.
when a man is on his purpose,
Yeah.
he's more masculine.
Yeah.
When a man is on his purpose, he's masculine. And that energy is what women, I think, thrive off of. So you and I've had that conversation before.
We have. I think ultimately, like, for me personally, I think that the interesting thing is, so earlier, and Anne Marie and I, we were sitting down and having a conversation on the couch, and she was explaining to me how with her personality, she's happy by herself sometimes. All the time. Okay, that's expound on that. But the point is, though, I think in general, most people need to be happy with yourself first before you can even be happy with somebody else. Would you agree?
You can't make anybody else happy.
You can't make anybody else happy. And almost like what Dalvin said, I generally kind of get that. It seems like you have to do things kind of like self-care, whatever it is that you need to do for you first, and you're filling up your cup. Whatever you need to do. You need to do some Reiki. Am I saying it right? Some Reiki. Whatever it is that fill up your cup for you. Really, what made your spouse fall in love with you in the first place? All right, would you agree with that?
Is that a form of meditation?
You can use it for meditation.
Yeah.
It's energy working.
Yeah.
That has a lot to do with Kundalini and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Chocolate.
Chakras,
Yeah.
But I believe the more of
No, I'm believing that though.
I was like, what the hell y'all talking about?
I'm sorry, Jim, but what you were saying, like, one of the things I love to do
Yeah.
is I go out and I'll cut the grass. We made a joke earlier about me smoking a cigar while I'm cutting the
You
grass.
smoke cigar while you cut the grass?
Damn right.
I didn't even see that. That's cool. That's interesting. It's like, oh, you need to go ahead too.
Enjoy it.
I ain't mad at you. That's cool.
I have my ball cap on. I'm doing the yard work. And I'm listening to a podcast or whatever else. But that's my me time to just focus on something else. I tune out work. I tune out my kids. I tune out my wife because I'm doing something to help out the home and I'm also doing something to help charge me.
Get batteries.
It's a workout, it's a whatever, and she doesn't bother me with that. Now she'll come out and say, "Hey, you want something to drink?" or, every once in a while. But I do that, and I know that when I'm finished, I'll come out and take a shower and do whatever else, and that's my thing that I have to recharge.
Right.
And the other thing that I think that we as a people need to let each other do is that even Mary, when she, me and Patty, we're gonna go have, dinner. We're gonna do something. I'm always telling my wife, go, because there's an energy that she gets from her girlfriends or females that she cannot get from me.
Right. Vice versa.
Yeah.
And that's a vice versa for me with my male friends.
Yeah.
I'll go smoke cigars or do something with them and have a drink. And I'm coming back home. And I think with a relationship, a partnership, I'm going to get my charge from my wife because she's my biggest cheerleader.
Right.
However, there's this thing that I also want her to make sure she having her time with her female friends. With you being from Ohio down here, with your family, if you reconnect with someone else, there's something with reconnecting with a female friend. Y'all get your nails done together or do something else that your husband, you're not going to get with your husband. That's the same thing with guys.
Oh yeah.
We get together, we'll shoot shit, we'll talk, and then we come back home. It's all about the energy going back to our wives.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we have to start really practicing more. And it's actually, when I do yoga, and I get it.
In the sink overnight.
Have you talked about
If
like
you want to do the dishes, you can do the dishes. If not, I'll get to it later.
Have you talked about like an agreement, like just like, oh, this is what we doing, this is what we not doing?
But you know what? That's good because then
Because that helps me out. I'm
exactly
not gonna stress
because
out
then
over
if
this little stuff anymore.
that is correct because you start stressing over that, then you start losing yourself.
And then if you talk to him about it, if I talk to you about it, nothing changes at that moment.
Right.
So I'm like, forget
No,
about it.
I see the dishes.
Whatever.
I get up early than her. I'll be cooking in the morning breakfast. I'll wash the dishes and do something else.
So you good with that?
Oh,
Yeah.
the kids too. My
That does not work.
house.
I'm OCD. Why these dishes clean? I'm OCD.
But that also helped me to be a little bit more relaxed because my old home before, Mary and I moved in together, I was like that because I traveled a lot. The kids were with their mom.
Yeah.
And now I'm at that, and this is an R-rated thing. I'm like, fuck it. If I can't do it that night, I get up in the morning. And if I get up in the morning, I get up early than her always. I go downstairs, I make my breakfast. I will wash the dishes, and she'll hear the dishwasher running. And there's no conflict because the whole thing is this. I always tell people this, and then sometimes I forget myself. Are you willing to take an L every once in a while? And the guys who love sports, they know that.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
I'll take an L. I will take an L, I'll walk away, and I'll come back and I act like everything is perfect because I'm not going nowhere with her. And I will take an L and I'll let her say whatever she has to say, and I'll just roll it back and I'll move forward.
So let me ask you a question. So 3 years,
Not me.
Huh?
I'm just saying not me. I can't take L's.
Yeah, I know you don't like to lose anything.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Sorry.
It's really not a loss. It's just moving forward.
I get that. I get that.
I can.
But
And
yeah,
I can.
So that's why I talk about opposites attract. I mean, I'm so grateful that there's a give and take with us because she knows that I can't take an L and she's willing to take that L just to appease me.
Oh yeah, in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. That's why I'm good at what I do because sometimes it goes back what we talked about and all this stuff with America. Sometimes I'm never gonna let anyone disrespect me. When I say take an L, is that I'd rather just let Mary fuss at me about certain things and just get it done and come back because the truth is sometimes it's better to just let it roll out.
Do you really mean that?
No, do it. No, listen.
A lot of guys.
Because you're like,
A lot. Listen,
Most guys.
So don't say something tell me you don't.
No, it's true.
Me right now.
Most guys,
On camera.
most guys,
Evidence.
no, seriously, most guys rather avoid the conflict. That's just how most guys. I'm just different.
There's a difference between avoiding conflict and not wanting conflict.
Well, I think sometimes also we measure what's worth it. You know, we be like,
Is it worth it today?
is this really worth it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's,
That's where
not necessarily avoiding it.
But
Right.
that's where I am now too.
So I communicated to Antoine something that Patty and I learned, and I can't remember if it was from a book or something.
No, it was on our honeymoon. There was this older couple, a friend,
Yes.
two best friends that were there
Yes.
in Cancun. And the one advice she said to us, always look at each other and say, is
it
this
worth it?
worth it? Before you're going to start anything, think about it. Is this worth it? That's the first thing you should always stop and do that. And that's what, and exactly, I always think
Really?
about that. And I
Yes,
remember
that's
that.
pretty-
It's
that's
late
pretty
and
cool.
I can't even see her.
Yes,
And that is so true.
it is.
And you can apply that to anything, not just in
Exactly.
marriages, but in any relationship or situation.
This is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Work here.
So with that being said, let me ask you a question. So 3 years, 18 years. What have you learned now that you maybe wish you knew before?
Hindsight.
In the hindsight, 3 years now, going on 18 years.
And it's funny, I'm gonna get back to the point. What's funny is that we're both alphas at the end of the day, okay? And we talked about, even kids, about genders and stuff like that. I'm a man type of thing. And she always talk about my feelings all the time. Like, you need to show your feelings. I'm like, no, I don't do feelings. I'm a man.
Masculine energy versus
God.
Yeah.
And there's times where, kind of what we're just talking about, where I have to take the high road a little bit. And I talk about this you and I talk about this a lot of times. Like, yeah, I'm in the doghouse. Yeah, I live in the doghouse. I just do. I'm messed up.
Every time we work out,
Every day, right? I do. I said I'm in the doghouse.
Yeah.
And he's like, you still like, yeah. He's like,
He likes it there.
It's normal.
He just got home and said, "Baby, put the phone out."
Right.
Yeah, it's normal.
Now, just go right to that.
But I think also, you talk about energy, you're absolutely right. And I probably say this from those who probably remember this TV show, cartoon called Voltron.
Oh yeah.
College friends.
That's dope.
Okay? It's 5 of us. And we started this when we were back in college. Like, it was the core 5 of us, right? And it was inseparable, basically, right? And it was branched out, but we branched out because of the men's trip. We've been able to be the arm that bring that part of the body in. My kids is another part of that. My family is another piece of that. Pieces of all these parts come together, but she's the body to bring us all together. But if I don't have that arm that year or whatever it may be, I'm not a whole person. And so, like you talked about, cutting grass, and it's so funny. I'm listening to her. She said that the other day. She said, you need to get in the business of doing more landscaping business. Like, that's your energy. I'm looking at her like, that's work. But at times, it is. I need to do something different. Us working out. It's our 30 minutes to an hour. Yes, it's healthy, but it's our time to chit chat as men.
Yeah.
It's our time to get fitness and relieve that stress or whatever it may be, just for that moment.
You need that every
And
week.
you need that. You need those little bit of, and I'm using this as a metaphor, but you need that little salt.
Yeah.
Just a little bit to kind of get through the moment. But you need to break a little bit to kind of come back as a whole, to come back to the whole that we're talking about, because we're going to have to take those L's, or we're going to take those little bit. And I'm pretty more so. I will listen, and I'm like, yep, all right. But then it builds for me. It builds, and it's like, all right, I had enough. I can't do this no more. And then I explode, and then that's when like, well, I'm back in the doghouse again. So, but it comes out because then she's finally hearing me at the same time too. But I think all that comes to play for us at the end of the day, that we're not the typical people. At the end of the day, gender-wise, I was raised by grandparents Our parents were married and got divorced, and so some things changed in our lives, and you know, we had some very similarities growing up. But then, you know, we grew apart to grow back together again, in my opinion. But a lot of it's still learning. I'm still learning a lot from her.
You say you're constantly discovering.
Oh yeah, I'm still learning. I mean, but I think a lot of it too has come to. I used to think of her what she used to be.
Right.
Okay. And reality is because time has gone so fast and didn't realize it, that time has moved on. Like you said, we're almost 18 years in, and like, wow, where did all that time go? We would never get that time back. And I tell her, and it's so true, because tomorrow's never promised to anybody, right? And so every morning, she thinks I'm playing with her, but I really truly mean it. I'm blessed that she's there.
Do you tell her that?
I tell her, I say, hey, you know, you're looking good today.
Oh.
You know, leave me alone. But the thing about it is, in that morning, I don't know if I'm going to wake up the next morning. You know, I want to be able to at least say I said something to you that was positive. Now, the rest of the day, I may be in the doghouse the rest of the day because of something else I did or I didn't do. But, you know, I take those L's at times. But, you know, that's part of the things that we take on as men. We take on things that no one else can take on. Right. You know, whether it's external or internal, it is some things that we have to take on. Our shoulders are broader, you know what I mean, that we take on more than others.
Yeah, I would say that. Well, thank you. Kenneth, what would you say?
I was going to say, sounds like I'm the minority.
How you minority in what?
In taking the L's. So
no L's.
Based on what Dalvin and Antoine has said, so the reason I don't take the L's, the reason I don't say, I'm just going to let this go, I'm going to broaden my shoulders and handle this, is that when I said earlier, I don't like repeat. I know how I am. So all men have a cave, and when we're in our cave, it comes to a point where when we're so bothered, the dragon comes out. And so my way, and I know how I am, when I say dragon, I mean when we get so hot, we explode. I hate conflict, and I never want to explode, because sometimes when we explode, we get out of our masculine, become feminine, and we become emotional. And I never want to be to the point where I can't control, and I'm no longer logical in my masculine, but now I'm feminine, so I'm exploding. I never want to be that. So for me to voice what I'm going through is my way of plowing through and saying, let's address this, let's set protocol, let's set process, so that we're not, because I feel like if I avoid an issue, it's bound to repeat itself.
There is the point where you have to pull back, and you have to take a step back, then come back and talk about something later on. I mean, all great counselors say this, and I mean, hell, even this happened with Jesus.
To your point, you don't know what she's going through at that moment, and that's one of the things I'm learning too, as well, is that she may be going some things that are really bothering her at that moment in time. And if I don't pull back, that could devastate her. And that's part of some of that storms we went through. I didn't know. I didn't know that she was going through some things, and I didn't take the L at that time. I was just pushing forward and pushing that button, and it devastated her. And still today, I'm still apologizing for whatever that may be, what I did, and I didn't know at that time.
Yeah.
So to your point, sometimes being older now, and wiser, and
more experience.
But it's now it's kind of like, I'll come back to that later. I don't want to touch that right now. Yeah. We may come back to that later.
So I'll tell you what's helped me. So I do the exact same thing. I read this book that I talked to you about. It talked about men's strength, men's energy, women's energy, and how we're supposed to flow on different frequencies. So with that mentality, when we're having conversations or a discord, I'm always watching my wife's body language. So when I see her put her head down, or I see her body language change, that's when I okay, we're going around in circles.
We're not progressing here.
We're not progressing in this relationship. She's saying what I typically say. We're not progressing here. Let's stop. Let's take a step back and let's reapproach this conversation when we can be productive. Because at this point, we're going in circles.
But I can tell now that with us being, married these 4 years, I could tell that you are actually looking at me and looking at my reaction and how I'm feeling at the moment, and that's when I noticed that you pull back. Okay, we'll talk about it later and whatever.
Because ultimately, and we talked about this, funny, when we were initially talking about having this DPC, we were talking about out of love and respect. So when I'm talking to my wife, I'm constantly on my mind, out of love and out of respect, and then I say what I have to say, so that she knows that where I'm coming from is still from I'm not this emotional mad dude. It's what I'm saying is for the betterment of our relationship, so that we can move forward.
So that's the word you use, out of
love. Yeah, if I gotta say something bad, it's gonna be out of love, out of respect first, so she can know that it's not just it's not just me saying something out of something negative.
It's entertaining. It's pretty interesting. But I remember he had this, maybe, I don't know if it's a quote on Instagram, and he said something that I thought that should probably be the goal of all couples in general, where he talked about how I think he was out of town, and his wife called and she was fussing at him, and after listening to it, he just said, "You just miss me, don't you?" And she's like, "Yeah," and I was like, yo, that's dope. I was like, so he recognized the fact that she really wasn't mad at him, but she just really missed her man. And I was like, that's where I think ultimate goal were to be, is to see beyond, because a lot of times women generally, not all, but generally a lot of times they communicate indirectly. They're not just going to say, I miss you. She's fussing about him being gone and this and that, but really she just missed her husband, she missed her man. And I thought it was dope enough that he had enough experience and more so attention to know her enough to understand that, he ain't got to respond back in the negative energy that that she's fussing at him. Just be like, baby, just miss me. I'm gonna try to come home a little sooner. And I was like, yo, that's like relationship goals there. I mean,
I think that comes with maturity. It doesn't matter how long you've been together.
Yeah.
You can mature depending on what you've been through on different levels.
Right.
Because we can be married 3 years until 13 years, but if you're still not going to put in that, let me put you first, let me think about you before I think about myself, you're never going to be in tune to that person saying, oh, you really do just miss me, you fussing, but I know what's really going on with you.
Right.
And that takes a level of maturity that may take so much years and effort to get to. Yeah. And that's the hard work. And that's where the hurt can come into play. I don't want to, is this right? Do we need a divorce? I mean, so much can happen within that time frame that you can really, when you really mature with each other. And it's hard.
Well, hold on. So I've been talking to y'all for a little bit, so I'm gonna give the single people at this table a little attention.
Let me make one comment. Let me make one comment before single people at this table. I just want to make one comment because you made a comment about when in a relationship people say they are robbed. So for me, knowledge is an endless journey. So to me, when a person says they are robbed, or in a relationship when you say you're robbed, I feel like people become complacent. So when you talk about wisdom and knowing each other, to me it's always a journey. To not just say I know you, but to continue to develop and know more, so that you can get to that point where when you know how, as the example you just made, she's arguing, he can say, oh, you just missed me.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
I say you never arrive.
But you should never arrive.
But that does take time. Here's the problem. My thing is, what I noticed that I think the problem is, you saw it in COVID. I mean, lawyers probably got really rich over COVID divorces, but
therapists.
So good. So they got rich over COVID divorces. But the point is that a lot of people don't make it over that hump. They don't make it over They don't make it 7-inch, whatever you want to call it. They don't make it over that hump to get past the work.
There has to be enough respect and understanding. And that, Ruby D said I gave Ozzy his space to figure out some things. And when he came back home, this was a safe place for him. He out there fighting, getting roles, doing everything else. I just needed to make sure he had a safe space. And then
that's important for men in general.
Yes, and Ozzy Davis said, I just had to.
I mean, that's what it is. It's like you being a safe space.
Yes,
there's no condition.
She's right.
There's no reason.
A sanctuary.
Yes, we said, but Ozzy Davis said I had to.
That's true.
I had to give Ruby D the opportunity to be the greatness that she is.
Yeah.
And he said I used to push her to go outside of the home and do whatever else. They were married for almost 40 years.
That's amazing.
And they said in their late, until they died, that they were still learning new things about each other and where they are. And I think a lot of times in relationships, we fail to understand that people are still changing. Like you said earlier, people are still learning and evolving.
So what do you do to keep on learning and evolving and knowing your partner?
Well, the thing is just respect them as an individual. Because remember, they were me before they were we.
That's true. That's good.
So
you can respect the person and still not know them.
Yes, I mean it's true. I mean we do that now in today.
How do you balance that though? Because like you talking about,
right?
Like dating and marriage they are not the same thing. And I know all 6 of y'all can attest to that. So there is a point where I completely agree when you need to respect the individuality. Like you need to have your own things that you still do for you that made you. But also now you're married and you have to do some things, the work, in order to make sure that you guys are connecting together. This is something serious. What would you say? What should be looking for? Not red flags, green lights. What you know?
If you can accept them exactly where they are.
Exactly where they are?
Yeah, start right there. That's everything kind of falls into place from there.
Okay. What questions would you have for some of the experienced people here? People who are newly married in 3 years, getting the hang of it. People who have been swinging in it for like the last 18 years.
It's not necessarily questions, just observations, and listening to them and listening to you all speak. It's interesting because I'm hearing that you are all, as you came together as couples, you're still growing in yourself. Mm-hmm. And part of being single the whole time is I've had the luxury of growing into myself by myself, so I don't have a representative anymore. I'm at the point where I know who I am, and this is it, and you accept that, or don't, and it's okay. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It just means that it's not it, and that's okay. I don't have to show this thing that I think you want. I can show you me, and if you want that, then that's beautiful.
That's exactly it.
Because it's not what you can do for someone.
It's not what I can do.
Like Dalvin just mentioned, is I love what Mary does for family.
Me, love has no reason.
It's no do.
No,
it's just being.
Yeah, love just is.
Yeah,
there is no reason. Reasons are conditions to me. That's just my opinion.
A lot of times when we're younger and you don't know yourself, and that's something I focus on early when I say this. I mean, you don't really know who you are. You put forth your best foot, what someone else thinks that they are going to be attracted to.
Because you are looking so much to be loved yourself.
That's
because
right.
You haven't learned to love yourself.
That's right. I would tell somebody I love myself more and more every.
That's true.
Love is not vain and narcissistic.
I want to pose a question because I think y'all just struck something good right there, and this is to keep going for the single people, and it's kind of in regards to navigating that space. So you're talking about having that time to really get familiar with yourself, which helps in communication. It helps because if you show up as yourself, it's like take it or leave it. You get all the answers right away. But when you're trying to navigate that space between two single individuals, what do you do when somebody hasn't taken that time? Do you show them grace, or do you say, hey, we just need to put you back in the oven, you're not ready yet?
It depends on how far along that process they are. So if they are ready to move forward and they are willing to do the work and willing to work with me and have that openness with me and show me that they are willing to get there, I can understand that you're not perfect. Maybe I can be an example for you. Maybe I can help you get there faster. Maybe there's something that I can learn about myself. We should be growing in each other.
So-
Regardless of where we are on the road, we should still be able to teach and grow and learn from each other.
Okay. What's your take on that?
You know, I agree. I think, you know, if someone is being really authentic at first, you can work with that. You know, because then if they're being authentic and honest with themselves and honest with you, I think you can work with that, because then that means that they're open to growth in general, and they're maybe on the right path. But if they're not, then they need to go back into self.
If they're just not ready, they're not ready.
Yeah,
Again, there's nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
They're just not ready. You're in different spaces.
If that person doesn't have that self-awareness yet, does that mean that they're not ready?
I would say, yeah.
I would say I'll give you a personal example. When I met the woman that I'm dating, there were some things I immediately recognized. I said, okay, she is, regardless of whether we're together or not, she's going to grow and mature in these areas. I'll be here on that journey. And the challenge for me was knowing when to, I guess, interject and when to just let things run its course naturally. But you could look at that from two different perspectives. You could say, hey, she's not ready yet.
Yeah.
Or you could say, like what you said, they're in a space where, you know, you can work with that. And everybody can chime in. That's just something that, you know, for single people.
You just made a variable though. You gave yourself as an example, but the variable in that is that you were ready and that you were comfortable with the timing and you were comfortable with helping them get to the next level. A lot of times it all based off the individual. You said that hey, you know, you saw her, you thought that you saw something great in her that you were willing to wait. That's the thing, because there are some people that they're like, hey, they're not ready yet, but I'm ready to make a move, and it's not going to work out. And that's life. You just have to play it out. You have to weigh it out and realize, hey, it's a give and take. That's the main thing. I want to make sure I say this. It's a give and take. Whatever you say or do, it's a give and take. It's not perfect.
Right.
And a lot of us, we need to, let's say us, people, U.S. society today, we need to realize there's no June Cleaver. There's no Brady Bunch.
That's true, yeah.
All of that is a fallacy.
Right.
White picket fence.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of white picket
With
fence,
the
June
pool.
Cleaver and all of that, I think when it comes to singleness, and then you guys, especially you two, been newly married. Did you know what you was really getting into once you got? You're right. You know, like after 3 years into it, did you feel like, oh, I didn't realize this, or I didn't realize
So
that.
let me
Did you not really, or did you
When I-
decide not to say it?
Ooh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
when I met Kenneth, I knew he was the one.
Oh,
Because-
that's my question next. Like, how you know that that person was going on?
Break down.
I knew he was the one because I never had a man like him. Like the way he's
Like,
very
what was different?
attentive, just very attentive. He always was.
God.
Yes.
You do something right, kid.
Oh yeah, I knew. But I got to a point in my life, because I had been married before.
Yeah.
I got to a point in my life that I was okay with just being with him. I did not have to be married.
Like, it wasn't. You just wanted to be with him.
No. I was
See,
happy
that make
at
a
that
man
point.
wasn't married,
And it took me a while.
It took her a while.
It took me a while because I was always married. I was married. Was married. My first marriage for 15 years.
Right.
I married very young. So when I met him, I was ready to date, but I wanted to get married again. But then I reached that point where I was, you know what? I don't need to be married. But I want to be with you, and I'm okay with just being with you.
That's good. So I want to be contentious and play devil's advocate.
Oh, here we go.
There's a great philosopher who says it is of no good help to adapt to a sick society. So when we say when the perspective is we accept a person as they are, what if, based on society, that person has adapted to a sick society? So just from a devil's advocate's perspective, in that situation, I don't think you should accept somebody as they come. Because if they're not in the energy and the role that they're supposed to be in, you shouldn't accept that.
I don't think you would if it was real. You would not.
Yeah. Some people do.
Yeah, that's not love.
That's
So, but again, so when we talk about as singles, when you're putting yourself into that environment and you're introducing yourself and you're meeting people, you're not at the point where you're saying, you're at a point where you're trying to just meet that person. And so if we're saying, and we may just be on different sides of the spectrum here, we're talking about two different things. But when you say just accept that person as they are, it's you don't really know that person, so, but you know that person's energy is not where it's at. But if the person who's saying accept me as I am, and they're living saying I know myself, this is my truth, this is who I am, either it is or it's not, either you want me or you're not, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to accept that if you are a masculine man, because you know that person's not moving into that energy. So in that perspective, you shouldn't accept somebody because they're not in their right frame of energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So back to my question originally about
I'm just
in this toxic society, as a single, what would you suggest that somebody's looking for if they're looking to get serious? Now that you've had some experience with married, you've had a ton of experience being married. What would you say, especially you two have been married about 3 years, what would you say be some good things to look for as a red flag or or as a good go?
So much.
Give me one.
It's so much, because, well, you gotta know.
All right, so you're friends with this lovely young lady right here. What advice would you give her?
Emery, when I introduced her to Adrian, I realized Emery is so unique and so special. Because Emery teaches me a lot. You know, as a woman, we have our own self-empowerment, and we are to know that we can do just as much as men can. So we don't.
What does that mean in this particular?
So if we're going to look for a relationship, if we want to be in a relationship, you know, you will see things that, or you feel things that, you know, that doesn't feel right with me. And sometimes you may not know exactly what it is, but you can feel that. I can be honest, I felt that without a little dating. There were some moments where I'm like, I don't like that. That doesn't feel good to me. But I kept wanting to try. I kept wanting to give it a chance.
God, dirty.
You know, I wanted to give it a
I don't know how it feels
chance.
like that.
And honestly, I remember telling him, and I was crying that day. He was like, what's wrong? I'm like, dude, you don't know what's wrong with me? But then I told him, I said, you're not who I thought you were. But at that moment, it was like, I think he tried to take that in. And I just sat there and I was still. So when I get in moments, I have to make myself be still. I have to be still. I have to pause. I have to really, what was it earlier when you guys were like asking that question, is it worth it?
Yeah.
You know, I had to really pause, and I had to ask myself, you know, is it worth it? Or how much do I want to go through, knowing that already I see, okay, we're not so much alike, and we may not see things eye to eye, you know, but yet I care for him. And so it's what you feel instinctively in your heart, you know, where you want to be led by. And that's what I lead myself with is my passion, you know. So everyone's different. The one who told me in the beginning a relationship is never 50-50.
It's never 50.
No, it's
When you
never.
said that in the beginning, I'm like,
No, it's not.
what do you mean?
100.
Yeah, because I could put in 100, he could put in 0. He could put in 80, I could put in 30, and no, 20.
Yeah.
But it's like it's not always eye to eye.
Yeah. My minister taught me that many years ago. He said a relationship is never 50-50.
Mhm.
There are going to be days that you're going to be 80, he's going to be 20. He may be 90, he may be 10. It may be vice versa. He said that is that BS that, he's real. He was like, that's the BS that they tell you it's 50-50. And he was like, in anything in life, there's not a 50%. Someone is strong or dominant in something more than another. That's what makes a relationship work. It's that understanding.
I heard somebody say that as long as there's somebody trying, but as long as you're not both in agreement that this is over with, then you're in good shape.
Yes.
Yeah. Right? Like if you're both like, I'm sick of you, you sick of me too, then you as long as somebody's like, no, we work this out. You got some hope there. I don't know.
And that's what I was saying at the beginning, that we made that commitment to each other that it's never going to be over. It's just going to always be a conversation as to how we get to the next point.
Right. Because
that
agree.
was
Like,
me.
I'm
That
sure.
was me.
Like what 19, 18
I was
years
gonna say,
old.
That was me. I was forced to
all the
say, you
time.
know what? This is not working out. I don't want to go through the trouble. I don't want to argue. I don't want to fight. I don't want to. It's not worth it.
It's the funny part for
Your
us.
side, I'm on my side.
the
But
funny-
I love my husband. And I love, not because he's my husband, but I love this man. So one of them is gonna have to make that sacrifice. There's always gonna be one that's gonna have to do more sacrifice than the other. You have to find that balance.
And sometimes it's uncomfortable. Making sacrifices is uncomfortable.
But I mean, shouldn't there be a goal where, to me, like a goal where like I can't stand you right now, and I love you, but you're getting on my nerves. Oh, you're getting on my nerves. I love you.
And that's when you have that individuality. You step out,
Yeah.
go your way.
Yeah, I did.
Come back.
I think that's a beauty of a relationship where somebody can get on your nerves so much, but you know you ain't going nowhere, but you love them. You're like, you know what?
Yeah.
Ooh, I can't
I
stand
think
you.
what's rewarding
Nerves.
is that accomplishment.
Well, I think,
Pencil it in the calendar.
but I you know what? I'm busy. I'm very busy. But you know what? I think you make time for what you want to.
You do.
You know, and then you make time for what you want to.
Amen.
I will be the first one to admit that. I'll make time for what I want to make time for. I'm like, all right, I put this on my calendar. So I guess I'm assuming it's the same thing. So when people get married, like how many of y'all are actually putting dates on the calendar? Like, all right, we're gonna go on a date once a week or once every other week. I don't care if we got to make a picnic in the living room. I don't know.
So what we've done is, it's easy to say we're going to do that, but things happen. So we kind of put a purpose to it. Mm-hmm. So not that it's just a date. What we've decided to say, well, the metropolis of Charlotte has grown so much. There's so many restaurants. What we've said is, once a month we're going to go to a new restaurant.
Okay.
And so just by saying that, we kind of have to go on a date. So we kind of made it a purpose in order for us to enforce the date.
Y'all pencil it in? Go ahead.
Well, I'm saying a little caveat. Your kids are older too, right?
Yeah.
Which is
a little bit different now because
Yeah, I ain't never did that with little kids.
it's really y'all now, right? And that's different from our situation, and even your situation, because your kids are in that moment where they need you, but are growing away from you, which means for us, our kids are really becoming more individuals and more like, we don't want to be around you no more, right?
Right, yeah.
And that's
right?
Yeah, the teenagers.
Yeah, they want to
Time in my
and it's kind of hard because again, that was that point I was telling you. In an 18-year period of time, we had kids that, and some part of what you were talking about, we did try to pencil things in. Being both professionals, it was hard to de-energize and decompress and then deal with kids, and then you just said, okay, we'll pencil this in, and we just like, whatever, we'll get to it. But now that our kids are different, I mean, like I said, I can't really tell you the last time we've been out.
Yeah, it sounds like it's important though.
And that's
It
why I
is
say
very important.
it's easy to pencil. It's hard to enforce it. So knowing what we know, we have to enforce it. So that we have to.
So I think that now with COVID, with everything that's happening, it is hard for us because Kenneth and I were out at a club every other weekend.
I was getting
We will make either a lounge or any bar, anything that we wanted to
Dancing.
do. We found that time, and that was fun. Now we have to find other things to do.
Right.
You know, like sometimes we have a romantic dinner, just the two of us on this little section of the table with candles.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's dope. Okay.
And we both plan it.
Yeah, we call in Carrabba's, have it delivered.
I
She
can
sits
cook, so
over
I'm
there,
making
over
a
there.
number.
And we talk.
Yeah.
No phones, no.
You want to commit? You want to contribute to that a little bit?
So I will say what's important is, I think it was key what you said, self-actualization, Maslow's hierarchy. Most people never get there. So when you look at the masses, everyone's operating at that bare level, just trying to get by, just trying to survive, and not really understanding themselves, and therefore never having the opportunity to learn or even care about understanding other people. At the end of the day, we're all people, so regardless of what your title is and where you stand in someone's life, the way you treat people, relationships are important. And it's funny you say, well, I kind of don't agree with the I'm committing to this forever, because I tell my children, relationships are optional. There are parents who don't get along with children, sisters, brothers. Relationships are optional, so you have to put in the effort. I'm never going to say, because we have these titles, we have to do this. No, you have to want to do it. So it's how you treat people. So at the end of the day, I feel as though the way you make things work is you have to want to work.
It is a two-way thing.
It's a respect. It's a give and take. When you get to the point where you know yourself, you know what your values are, you know what you stand for, then you learn to grow to respect someone else. They don't have to be exactly what you want. They don't have to do exactly what you say, but you get to the point where you respect what they want and you give up yourself to make that other person happy. It's give and take in a relationship. You're going to be at different ends, and some people are natural takers, some people are natural givers. So it's finding that balance. And it's not even a balance, it's the harmony, because it doesn't necessarily have to balance, because like you said, 80-20, 90-90, it just depends. If you're both giving your all.
But would you say that, really quick, would you say that comes from some self-actualization to say, hey,
that's what I said, most people never get there.
This is what I need, or some people don't take the time to really thoroughly express that, and you have some friction, some problems, some things
I think
unspoken.
it's a combination of both.
Okay.
It's a combination.
Thank you for sharing that.
That was.
What, you just
Wait
like
on,
you
we
wanna-
wait on, make the drink on me. That was good.
What did I get from this? It seems to me that in general that you, whether you're single and continuously, from what I'm hearing from each and every one of you, you need to continue to get to know who you are individually. And it seems like you need to be constantly becoming the best version of whoever you are. And I think from what I'm hearing, it seems like if you're not becoming the best version of who you are, especially if you decide to get to a relationship, you're kind of ripping yourself and the person that you're with off, because that's who they marry, become, And but it seems like the better you become or work on yourself, it actually seems to enhance your relationship, is what I'm hearing. So if you're working on you, if you're able to express your needs better by knowing what you need, what you like, what you don't like, and be able to articulate that in such a way to your partner, it just seems to enhance the relationship. And I think it seems like that when you don't do that, it comes out in some type of negative form. And so that's a normal reaction thing. So you're not looking for them to complete you. You're actually, hey, this is my awesome life. You got an awesome life. Maybe we can just bring this awesomeness together and enhance each other's life. But we're not trying to complete each other. We're just trying to bless each other, or enhance each other's life. But it's not so much I'm looking for love for you. You already got love, and I can share some of my love with you. My cup is already full, and I got something to share. So that's what I got from it. I'm learning a lot. And I'm thankful for each and every one of y'all being here. I'm hoping that maybe we can get together again. Because it just,
If you serving this food like
do
that,
it tomorrow. Oh, sorry. Do it tomorrow. I love me some waffles now. Yeah,
I gotta give it to him. He has perfected his waffle
waffles
recipe.
good. I ain't gonna lie.
Perfect texture. Got the good flavor in there. 5 stars on Yelp.
Hey, I'm Cortez. This is Dinner Party Conversations. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and keep following.